Paul from Alexandria Knife Sharpening and Laser Engraving. So one of the things I just got in the shop was an order of new cutting boards, and I'm going to show you these in a second. What I'm getting ready to do is a custom cutting board for somebody, and these have been really popular. This is not difficult to do, and they're like just super popular right now. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking somebody's relative's recipe, and a lot of times they're handwritten. This one happens to be typed out. It did have some handwriting on it, but they asked me to remove the handwriting, and putting it onto a cutting board. So basically they send you a picture or they scan it. You go in, do a little bit of work in the graphics program. It's pretty easy. Sometimes you can trace them. Sometimes you can do it as a JPEG and just kind of go in and edit some stuff. And then you engrave it onto a cutting board. Now I'm going to show you the cutting boards that I use. There's tons of cutting boards out there. You can get lots of inexpensive ones on Amazon, but I try and keep a nice supply of some really nice cutting boards. And I'm going to show you the ones I'm getting ready to open just now, but I'll show you what they look like. And these are special cutting boards because they're designed for laser engraving. And that's why I buy these specifically. So these are the smallest one. They have three styles and 4 different sizes, and this is the smallest. But this one here, this is a cherry cutting board with wood trim, and you'll notice it might be a little hard to see, but these are not treated. So they have not been oiled yet. Nothing's been done to them, which is great for laser engraving because we don't really want anything on them yet. I do all that myself. This is the one I'm getting ready to do. I'm going to be doing a maple. This is maple with walnut trim. And then this here is walnut with cherry trim. So that's the three main styles with 4 different sizes. And I really love these boards. My favorite for engraving, my favorite look-wise, I love the walnut. It's really dark. It works great for certain things. My absolute favorites for engraving, though, are the cherry, and I also like the maple, too. They both, depending on what you're doing, for something like this, where it's a recipe, definitely cherry or maple are the ones you want. The walnut, I find, it's a little bit dark for that. I found that's better for like logos, crests, things that you don't want quite as prominent. But let me show you. I'm going to open up this box real quick. So I'm just going to stop this and flip the camera around. And these are 12 by 16, I think. Actually, no, this might be the 11 by 14 because there's probably one even bigger in here. Yeah, there is. So this is 11 by 14. So this is one I haven't ordered before. Wait till you see the size of this one. This one, I don't know if this is the biggest. They might even have one size bigger than this. But this is a good size board. There you go. And there's that one. So this is the 12 by 16. So this is a large, kind of a medium, and then I have the small boards. But there's actually a 4th size in some of these. I forget what the exact dimensions are. I've been wanting to look into getting custom boxes made for these too. I'd like to get I think they're worthy of a nice box. Not just, any old thing. And I would love to get, 3 standard sizes that I like a lot, and then have boxes like a nice box, like kind of like how Apple wraps stuff. They always have really awesome boxes, maybe with a magnetic seal. It might cost a couple bucks, but I think it would definitely be worth it. These get really good money, so they tend to run, depending on the size, on the small ones about $20 each, and then just for the slightly larger, you're looking at about $25 each. I mark them up 3 times, and then I add my engraving fee on top of it, and it depends on what's being engraved also goes into the cost. In general, I usually get about around $125 or so for a large cutting board, and in the 70s and 80s for a small cutting board. And once again, like I said, it also depends on what's being put on it and everything else. So let me show you the engraving. I am getting ready to do, this is a test board. I wanted to make a good test board for the maple, and that's what I have in here. So this is a maple with cherry trim, and I'll show you the test pattern after this is done. But I'm gonna record this. I'll time lapse it so you don't have to sit there and watch the whole thing. This is gonna be about a 20-minute engraving of this recipe on here, and hopefully it comes out well. I did a whole bunch of tests on the back side of this, so this one's going to just be a display for the shop. So on the back side, it's going to have my test patterns so that I can pick kind of what I'm looking for in the engraving. And I actually tested both of my machines. So this is the 40 watt, and to the left of it, I have the 20 watt. The 20 watt gives a slightly sharper engraving, but for what we're doing here, I think the 40 watt's going to be just fine. And you'll notice when I show you the test pattern later that there's really not a huge difference between the two. I mean, there's a difference, but it's you sometimes notice it on really intricate, detailed, tiny things. But on like, if you're doing like big font or big graphics on a cutting board, it's not going to be as noticeable. I noticed the difference between the beam sizes between these two lasers more when I'm working like smaller, more intricate things like usually engraving slate is where I'll notice the difference. All right, so let's get started. I'm gonna hit the laser and let it go, and then I'm gonna just stop this because I'm gonna put it on the time lapse. All right, we're all finished. Let's see how it came out. It looks great. Let me give you a little tilt up here. So there's the recipe called moon cookies. So that's the same one I'm going to have to do for a client. I figured I would use it. It's going to be, this one's going to be for, like I said, demo purposes. So I'm going to show you on the other side here. So here's all the test patterns. It's always good, as I've mentioned many times, it's good to run material tests on all the stuff that you use. That way you can get in here and you can pick the very best settings for what you're doing. We picked on this 30 at 315. I think it was this one right here. I really liked, it was one of these, it was 30 at 315 at 200 lines per centimeter, and that came out really good. It looks just like the original recipe, and there you go. And I will, I'll show you a little bit of what I did on the computer, how easy it was. It was not difficult to do. I basically just deleted a couple things and took out a few things. So here's the finished cherry board for the client. He was so happy with it. He asked me if I could make another one. And he said, this one's going to be more challenging because it was a handwritten recipe. I believe he said it was his great grandfather's, who was from Italy. It's all written in Italian. And he wanted to know if there's any way I could do it. And I'll show you what the original file we had to work with was. All we had was a PDF picture of the recipe. It was a little challenging, but I was able to get it done. All right, so the very first thing that I did was I took those PDFs that he sent me, and because you could see there that there's stains on the paper, there's all kinds of stuff going on down there. We got some bleed through going on. I brought these into what would be easiest for me to work with, Photoshop first. And I just did some basic cropping, and I adjusted the contrast of these so that the paper became more white and the writing became more dark. Okay, so here is the Photoshop documents. I'm just going to open one of these up to show you what I did. Originally brought these in and they were PDFs. Although I plan to do a lot of the correcting in XCS software on the xTool machine, I decided I wanted to do some work in Photoshop, and I also wanted to convert these to a PNG because I wasn't sure if the xTool machines would recognize a PDF. I would have to check on that, but I don't think they do. So that was the other reason I needed to convert these, because he sent them to me in PDFs, and I just wanted to do a basic cleanup. So the first thing I did was I cropped them, and I'll just show you, nothing fancy. I just kind of went in here and I did a crop, and I just wanted to get all the writing and then kind of get rid of whatever was extra. So I went up to the very edge just like that, and I cropped it. All right, so I made a duplicate layer. I came down here and I just made a duplicate layer so that I didn't mess up my original, although I still had my original PDFs to work with. And the first thing I did was I came up and I just simply did an adjustment with contrast. And you could do this with just about any photo editing program out there. So if you're more comfortable working with Lightroom or some other, more basic program, that's fine. You don't need Photoshop to do the stuff that I did here. This is very, very basic photo editing. But the first thing I did was basically I just adjusted the contrast. So I came in here and I started playing with my contrast slider because I just wanted to make the paper, I wanted my writing to pop a little bit more. And you can see I could brighten it. And as I brighten it, you can see I'm starting to lose some of that stuff in the background that I didn't even want to see. So I just brightened that all the way up. And then I worked with my contrast. Now, contrast brightens whites and darkens darks. So by increasing the contrast, I could bring out that writing even more. So that was how I started with just doing very, very basic editing like that. And I didn't even bother coming in here and cleaning up anything else. I didn't come in here and do any editing or taking out stains or any of this stuff. I could do it in here, and you certainly could. There's no reason why you couldn't. I actually did most of that in the laser software. But my basic thing I was doing here was just I wanted the paper to look white so that when I went to either trace it or do whatever adjustments I was going to do in the laser software, I wanted it to recognize it really well. And I knew by just making that paper white and increasing the black that I would get what I was looking for here. Now, another thing you could do, some photo programs will have an adjustment just for black. So sometimes you'll see black level. I know Lightburn has that, so that's another way that you could do that. So there's really just a lot of things you could do there. You could sharpen it up if you wanted to see the writing a little bit better. I kept it very basic, so I just wanted to show you that. And then what I did was I exported this as a PNG. And that was it. That was all I did. And like I said, you could do this I'm just happen to be showing you Photoshop because I have it. But you could do it in Lightroom, and you could do it in just about any other basic photo editing software. Here, I did not do anything fancy there. And then I saved it. And then what I did was I went into XCS software. You can see here are the two PNGs. And I actually probably just did a better job on that one than I did when I originally did it. But I'm just going to open one of these up. And you can see, so there is my recipe right here. And I actually was using a different laser. So this is my F1 Ultra, but I was using my S1s on that. So I'm going to move this to the S1 platform just so you can see that. So this is what I did. I brought that basic PNG into here. And now I did a little bit more editing. So then I came in here and I went to edit. And this is where I started deleting the background. So I just wanted the letters. So the first thing I was going to do is just see if can I take out just the background. I used my magic wand and I just went to a blank spot on here and clicked it. And you see all the little checkered boxes? That's where it deleted that background. And then what I did was I just looked really close. So you'll see here, like the inside of this P didn't get taken out, and I want that out. So I just would click in there, and I went in and I just checked all these letters and writing to see if there was anything that it didn't get on deleting that background. But you can see now what I have here is just the writing. But let's see, you can see down below here, we got all this area down here where it didn't get it. So I'm just going to click down here and you can see it got that. And then you can see we have some little straggling sections down here where there's still some junk. And I just, same thing, like I said, I came in here with the magic brush, and then if I needed to the right is the eraser. And I can control the size of this by using this slider right here on the right. And I just came in here, and anything else I needed deleted that it didn't get with that magic eraser, I just deleted just like this by hand. And the only area I really had to clean up a lot, like I said, was this lower area on this recipe card. Yeah, and I think I left the one pen line where he had drawn, but I took this, like this is a little artifact from the frame area there, and I just went in and cleaned up everything. Probably took this out like that. Once I had this pretty well cleaned up, I would have taken this out too. And I'll just take this line out here just for demonstration's sake. I wanted to show you one other quick thing here, especially for anyone out there that's new to XCS software that you may do and then be like, oh, what did I do here? So let's go back to edit. When I showed you how I deleted that background, I wanted to show you sometimes if you click on something, you'll delete more than you wanted to. And I just wanted to point this out to you. So let's say I'm going to click on this like letter N here and see if I can get it to do it. Okay, do you see how I deleted that line? Like it deleted all the middle of that writing. So sometimes you'll be clicking on things and it just goes and takes way more out than you wanted it to. All you have to do is come up here. See these two little arrows? For the longest time, I missed this. I did not know that was there because they're not very prominent. If you click this, it'll take you back one step. See that? And then you can actually just keep clicking back and forward and forward and back. So if you ever do, something that you didn't want it to do, let's click a bunch in this over here. Yeah, see how I just took out all that part of that O, and let's say, oh, I didn't want to do that. All I got to do, come up with my little arrow, start clicking back, and you'll see it'll back you up to where you were before you made that. And I just wanted to show you that in case some of you are new to XCS. I know for a while that I did not know those little arrows were there, so I was always really careful when I was deleting backgrounds and things because I hated when I hit a button and it took out more than I wanted it to and I didn't know how to get it back. All right, so just wanted to show you that. But I got this to where I kind of liked it. We do still have junk down on the bottom. I cleaned all that up by hand, but for just the sake of time, I'm going to skip that for now, and I'm going to click Save. Now you can see here is my recipe with the background now removed. And then I decided to take this a step further, and I did actually trace it. So trace kind of outlines everything, and it turns something into a vector. So I went to Trace next, and I looked to see, same thing again, how good my trace looked by coming in here and seeing where all the little blue sections show up. And by adjusting your fuzziness control, it will capture more stuff or capture less stuff. But you can also, you'll see here, it has a smoothing control, so it will kind of smooth that writing out a little bit. And I wanted it to smooth it pretty well. I didn't want it to look, exactly like the pen. I wanted it, as a very nice trace of what this person's handwriting was. And that's kind of what I did here. So I went in here and I just made these fine adjustments, taking a look to make sure I was capturing everything I wanted. And you can, if you lower your denoise, you'll see it'll capture more, capture less. And that's what I did here. And I just kind of went around and did that until I got it the way I wanted it. And then what I did was I clicked save. And now I have an actual vector image of the writing. And you can see it actually separated into 3 colors here. And I can then take this piece out, which is the outline, and I can tell it engrave. And you'll see, do you see how much darker and cleaner this showed up? Now, this down here, that's my fault because I didn't clean it up before this. Like I said, I was just showing you for speed purposes here. You can see how much better that looks than over here. This, we're actually seeing, this looks more like the actual pen marking. But over here, what it did, it just smoothed that writing out and filled in some of these areas. Now, this orange layer here that we're seeing, it separated it by colors. So there are actually some stuff here. And this is really interesting too, because it did all that stuff that I didn't get down below. Do you see how I have it all now? I can just delete that. Boom. And now look, now I have all the writing perfectly clean. So it actually captured a lot of that stuff I was deleting by hand. I was able to do it by tracing it and then going in, and it captured it on its own separate color. And then I just deleted that color. And now you can see we have a very nice rendition of this recipe in that part. And what I did was I basically did this for both parts of this. So it was a 2-page recipe. I did the same process for the 2 different pages. And then I brought them together on one thing, just like this, lined them up on my board, then grouped it all as one big group, and engraved it onto the board. And that was the whole process. And it's really very easy to do and makes an incredible personalized gift, especially if this is like a deceased mother, father, somebody's, grandparents, great-grandparents, treasured recipe or family recipe that's been passed down for years. And these have just been really popular with my clients and have been a very easy sell when people see them. The person that bought this one had actually had me do a different recipe and was so happy with it, said, I want a second one, and had me make a second one for him. So just wanted to show you that. It's not difficult to do. The editing is fairly easy, and a lot of times, like, this is about as challenging as you'll get if you have something that's really not a great. Here we were working with a PDF of something that someone else had photographed and then turned into a PDF and sent it to somebody. Usually I'm dealing with at least a pretty decent picture or something, or ideally one of the best things is if someone can just come and give you the actual recipe. Then what I do is I either scan it or take a picture of it myself and then go about this process. So that's it. Just wanted to share that with all of you. I hope you like that, and I will show you the final results of how this handwritten recipe came out for my client. So here I'm applying the final part of the process, which is to treat the cutting board. I like to use Odie's oil. It's food safe. and it lasts a really long time. I have had cutting boards that have repelled water for close to 2 years using Odie's oil. And then after the Odie's oil, I do follow it up with Odie's wax as well. I find that's the very best product for cutting boards. And as always, I will leave links in the description of the YouTube video for the products and things I mentioned during this video. Have a great day, everybody.